Welcome to Soul Science, the official podcast of Sports and Exercise Podiatry Australia. We're your hosts, Pat and Harriet, both dedicated sports podiatrists with a passion for advancing our profession. In each episode, we delve into the latest research, share compelling stories from clinicians, and feature special guests who've made significant contributions to the field of sports and exercise podiatry and lower limb sports medicine. Harriet, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Not too bad for a Tuesday evening. Just finished a 5K run. I'm trying to train for a 10 kilometer in 2 weeks' time, and I've done 3 runs. So this is sports science at its finest.
Putting theory into practice, I'm sure.
Yes, but this is exciting. This is our podcast. It's finally launching, and this is our inaugural podcast.
And I'm actually very excited with who we have got on today. Pat, would you like to introduce?
I would love to. Today, we're excited to have John Osborne, an experienced sports podiatrist and one of only 7 practitioners awarded with the title of Certified Sports Podiatrist by the Australian Podiatry Association. John is currently completing his PhD at La Trobe University, where his research focuses on the role of muscle strength in plantar heel pain, or plantar fasciitis. His work is already making impact with the recent article accepted for publication in JAFE, Journal of Foot and Ankle Research, analysing foot and ankle exercise prescription, recently presented at Sports Medicine Australia 2023, I believe. Clinically, John works with a diverse range of athletes from weekend warriors to elite sports professionals. With a background of strength and conditioning, he takes a holistic approach to foot and ankle care, integrating rehabilitation and performance strategies to optimize movement. A passionate advocate for both personal and professional growth, we're really lucky to have John here. He continually pushes the boundaries of evidence-based sports podiatry. So, welcome, John.
Thanks, mate. Thank you, Harriet. Thank you, Pat. Fun to be here. Congrats on the podcast. It looks, it's really nice.
Thank you.
It's taken a while, mate.
It's taken a little while.
200 episodes later, this will be just a blip in the past.
No, by the time that happens, you'll have come on about 4 or 5 times on every aspect of your entire podiatric career.
John,
Fun and games.
we give every guest this sort of question, and everyone has a different perspective. So we'd love to hear yours. So our signature question is, what does sports and exercise podiatry mean to you?
That is a really good question, actually. Look, I suppose the sport and exercise podiatry, what does it mean to me? It's funny because we changed the name, right, to sports and exercise podiatry. And I'm kind of glad we did, because I think it allows us to really broaden how we see it and how it fits in the overall thing. So for me, it's about managing it's really about managing not just musculoskeletal injuries, but it's managing people who are exercising or involved in their activity and keeping them moving for longer. Often sports medicine can get sort of shafted to the bottom of the pile. So for me, it's not necessarily about quantity of life, but about quality of life. No, we're not going to save a limb, or certainly not in the context of the diabetic population are, and that's really important. And there's certainly no turning that down. But I think that our context is that we're giving all of those same people the capacity to be as involved for as long as possible in life. So that's how I see it. It's deep.
Well, as one of the first, I guess, certified sports pods in Australia, what do you think that recognition means to you?
Yeah, I am really proud of that. And I'm really proud of that because no one's going to take it off you. But I'm really proud of the fact that that we have this capacity to go the next step and to be reviewed by my peers, who I have huge respect for, and put myself under the spotlight and go, you know what? I'm not just going to sit here and put sports podiatrist on my windows. I'm not just going to sit here and say to people that somebody else has endorsed me to say that, yeah, you can do what you do and you're decent at your job. And then the responsibility that comes with me now to try and encourage others to do the same thing, push themselves to really question. And you are to go through that process, you're questioning your own capacity every day. And it's the clinical way of effectively doing a master's in a sense, but I'm really proud of it. Physios have got it, and you can't get a decent job in elite sport without it. And I think it's a real opportunity for podiatrists to stand up and endorse ourselves. So I'm really proud of
We're really proud of you too.
it. You're too nice, young lady.
So can you share?
That sounded really patronising. It wasn't supposed to be. Sorry, Harriet.
Can you share, as a back in the day, John, probably a few years now, what drew you to kind of this sort of specialty, and what's driving your passion?
So as a student, I first didn't want to even do podiatry. I was deciding between physio and medicine, like a lot of people. And then I got into working at a shoe store, and I went, you know what? Like, I had a huge collection of shoes as it was already.
Yep.
And I went, actually, maybe this is my thing. And even then, even while I was working in a shoe store, I still was going, I'm not going to do the sports stuff. It's too, it's too cliched. Figuring I'd go down the surgical path or the diabetes path. And even though I've got type 1 diabetes, it just didn't hit me. It just didn't hit me. So I just enjoyed it. It's so specialized and so nichey. So my brain can just go deep and dark down the wonderful wormhole of the foot and ankle. And it felt really misunderstood or understood. Yeah, so that was really good. I was probably fortunate actually that the Michael Rathliff paper also came out some time while I was, the paper talking about is the plantar heel pain and calf rise exercise thing. It was really good because it just started so much just conversation, and people just went, they went hard, baby with bathwater on one thing and another, and then the barefoot thing came out. And they're really interesting topics, particularly when people just go really hard and get really stuck down that one pathway. So those are the sorts of things that really made me go, yeah, actually, you know what? This is fun. This is fun. And then on top of that, there's someone at the other end of this, and we can truly make a difference. So it's that's how I got to it. It's fun.
Yeah. I guess when I was a new grad in 2014, I think strength and conditioning and muscle strength was and exercise prescription was probably a foreign thing as a young clinician, but so much has kind of changed in the last 10 years. And I guess a lot of your research is based around exercise prescription and muscle strength and plantar heel pain. Do you want to run us through a bit more about that?
Sure. Right. So the latest paper that should drop any time now in the next month. I thought it was going to come sooner because I have just passed I have just said I've accepted the thing that goes to publication.
Like a wiki leak.
It's a wiki leak. It is. You guys get a full, like, not been put out there yet. You probably won't even have the link for the paper, but it's a really interesting, talking of exercise prescription. So this is what it looks at. So it absolutely looks at exercise prescription. And if we look at the guidelines, so the ACSM, American College of Sports Medicine, people can criticize it all they like, but it's at least a guideline that we can refer to, right? They would sort of say that you're aiming for about, somewhere around about 6 to 8 repetition maximum. You want to do it, at least 4 sets in those who are well conditioned, maybe 3 sets in those that aren't. There's a really nice paper actually to coincide with that, Brad Courier, who did one in BJSM, where he sort of said, look, 3 times 10 will get most people going somewhere. But at the end of the day, that great paper, it will still have a limit though. You can't give people 3 sets of 10 of something forever because they're not going to go anywhere. And we also need to make sure that we extend and push people to that point.
Well, where did that number come from originally?
Well, this is that's my big question, right? And I think it came out of convenience.
Cool.
10's a round number. You know what? Do 3 sets of that. I think it's absolutely convenience. And then we've just happened to work the science around the fact that it's reasonable for hypertrophy and it's good enough. So I actually think that it comes from a bit like the short foot exercise.
Yep.
If we go all the way back to that was just a footnote in a orthopedic paper that said, yeah, you could try this exercise like a draw your metatarsals to your heel. Maybe that's going to work. And then all of a sudden that became gospel, right? So I think it's just out of convenience. I love history. I need to go back and actually find where 3 sets of 10 starts. It'll be there and it'll absolutely, I would, hand on heart, I reckon it's convenience. But if we look at all the literature, it's in the paper, it's about 300 plus exercises, about 90 papers. It's 3 sets of 10. Like that is the vast majority of what we do. But the thing that concerns me more about the foot and ankle is that we're trying to put 1.5 times body weight through our foot. And we, in all the papers, don't specify how much load we're putting through it. Or we put in stuff that is a TheraBand.
Mm-hmm.
None of that is close to 1.5 times body weight. So that's awesome that we're getting positive results out of it. But imagine if we actually tested the foot for what it's worth. So from that paper, from a prescription perspective, I think we are undervaluing the foot and its capacity. I mean, 3 times body weight for running, like it's an amazing piece of work that's transferring through into the ground. And I think we just forget, and then we try and treat it like a hand because it feels like it gives us some action.
I guess for our listeners, in what context are you referring to as load? Is that body weight, or is that gravity, or is it a mixture of everything?
It's the amount of force that we are pushing into the ground from our body weight.
Yep.
So in order to propel us forwards, we need to generate about 3 times body weight, dependent on the person, in order to be able to propel us forward at a speed, or even actually to take off into the air to be able to make us move.
Yep.
The amount of force we require to push us forwards is different to the amount of force required to push us upwards. So forwards is going to involve more foot than going upwards. Certainly more digital stuff. Forwards requires far more than going upwards. And then side to side is different again. But in a really broad context, that's effectively what we're doing. Does that answer your question, hopefully?
Yeah. What sort of apparatus, or are you at liberty to share what sort of testing products that you're using for this objective data?
Yeah, so it's really funny. I just use a handheld dyno. I just use I'm using a Commander system at work. Yeah. So I found a way that it's consistent for me to produce the same results. I think one of my issues with some of the systems that exist now is that they're trying to compare different practitioners between each other and say, here's 20,000 people, but there's no consistency in how, A, it's not consistency on pathology, B, it's not consistency on how people are doing things. So I think that big raw, as cool as having all that data is, I don't know that we can, I mean, they're big numbers, but I just don't know that we can sort of say, you know what, it's really consistent and it's really reliable from person to person. But I think if we're using the same reliability within our own selves, we've got exactly the same protocol we're following every single time, and we're doing those things, then that's not bad. That's pretty reliable. And there's a lot of different protocols that exist to try and measure stuff. But yeah, I've for a long time used the old paper grip test because it gives you about 3 kilos. I mean, 3 kilos is not near a body weight. But even I might use just get someone to do a task. Like if you don't have access to all this activity, go, can you do the task? No, I cannot. Okay, fine. Can you do a calf rise and push into 100 kilos? No, I cannot. Okay, fine. Can you do a calf rise on just your body weight? I can do that. Okay, so where we need to go. So you can find lots of different ways to measure as long as you're utilizing the same measure against yourself each time. Can you measure the force or the torque about the MTPJs as someone's running down a hallway? No, you can't. Can you measure how comfortable they feel? You absolutely can. And what's important to the patient in that context. So, if they're sore and they're finding it just difficult and they're not able to do it, then maybe that's your measure. So, yes, I'm benefit. We've got, a Commander, we've got the Vald system and stuff downstairs. But I'll just use the handheld Commander. That gives me enough.
Yep.
Unless it's an athlete.
I think Harriet and I were exposed to a little bit of tech down at the Queenstown, the CEPA conference last week. But I guess that's a perfect segue to our next segment, which is the tech and tool spotlight. So gateways to innovation. Oh yes.
Hey, I like that. That's good. Are you guys using tech? Are you guys using stuff to measure stuff?
I think well, I don't know about Harry. I think in a couple of pieces at the moment.
Oh, yeah, we use a lot of tech, but I literally just Googled your Commander dynamometer just to see what it looked like. That is very cool. Is that the one that like is around your hand? Is that the one that you use?
Yeah, I think so.
Like a little,
I,
like
I don't know what you're looking at, but I'm going to nod my hand and nod my head and say yes.
yeah, it looks very cool. No, I don't use anything that fancy. We have one. We've actually only got like a little digital one that connects to people's toes. So ours is probably a little bit small scale. But yeah, just like what Pat was saying at the Queenstown conference with SEPA, the Bold was there, and so we got to test out their force plates, which was an absolute scream. It was really good because the data is amazing, but I mean, obviously, it's quite difficult to have that in every clinic. You know, it's money, it's the expense. Not everyone owns their own clinic, so can make those decisions.
Yeah,
They'll have that input. Even it's not all about tech. You just got to do the best with what you've got.
yeah, that's right.
100%.
So I think your
100%.
comment about what can you measure? What have you got available to you? And if it is just the patient's subjective, yeah, that feels okay, or that feels terrible, that's quite powerful for people. And ultimately, that's what we're all working towards, getting people to feel better.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, if you even on exercise prescription, and I've totally upended your podcast now, but if you look at exercise prescription, like if 3 sets of 10 is enough to get most people moving, I'd love to see what the question would be. Well, what about if they can't walk at the moment? What happens if we just get them on a bike for the moment and just get them moving and not fearing the movement and feeling strong about the movement and then transitioning them to another movement?
yeah.
Going back to that 3x10 and your favorite 6 to 8 reps, just for the listeners, what would be your classic, someone comes in with plantar heel pain, your area of expertise, what would be your classic clinic rundown with them?
For what, from go to yo? So I've already
Why not?
diagnosed it, I assume.
Yeah.
Well, like plantar heel pain's funny. I keep changing my mind on how to manage that. I'm probably not giving them exercise at the moment, depending on who they are. So if I'm picking a classical plantar heel pain, it's probably a lady over the age of 50, probably overweight. I'm making all changes around footwear. I'm probably using foot orthoses and probably something over the shelf, depending on the foot type. And then we are having conversations around cortisone. I have the benefit of being an endorsed podiatrist as well. So I know that there's some really good research coming out about bias in plantar heel pain. Not for me to say more than that, but I know it's coming, and the results are fascinating. So I'm probably leaning to the old passive approach, and also the plantar fascial stretch. Like, we just ignore that. We seem to go, it's too boring, not doing it. I want to give people all these fancy other bits and pieces. And when you look at the Morrissey review on how to manage plantar heel pain, education is really important. And education isn't sitting here and berating a patient about how good or bad they are. It's about engaging with the patient, talking them through things, helping them understand what's too much, what's not enough, giving them strategies that they can go away and deal with, giving them, listening to them if things don't work, and then going, okay, well, if that's not working, we can try this. So if the stretching and the foot orthosis, try the shockwave, try the exercises thing, and that might work for them. But it is really engaging with where that person's at, and then trying to empower them with some strategies that they feel confident moving forward with. So there's often a bit of nuance between patients, but that's probably where I'm starting.
Yeah.
Sorry, Pato. That was not on our question schedule.
That's all good. But I guess with the knowledge that you know now, John, as working towards a PhD towards plantar heel pain, and the knowledge and the tech that you're using in the clinic, right? How much does that inform your exercise prescription and load? And if you didn't have that technology, which I guess a lot of podiatrists in Australia wouldn't have access to, what would your advice be?
Yeah. So I think I would. So a paper that I think a number of people who probably listen to this podcast have already heard me speak about before is that we've got that EMG and torque production paper about the M2PJs. So, and everyone's heard me talk about leaning forwards and the benefits of that. So that's about that forward propulsion. If we just look at how the foot functions for a second, we've got to get away from this, I think, and I know that there's a couple of other amazing researchers who would probably, it'd be interesting to, I know they would probably disagree a little bit with this. But if we look at the muscles, they either flex the toes or they flex the ankle. And the muscles work with both. So I think we're starting to get this idea that we need to load them. So trying to do something that's strengthening the midfoot and, you know, bridging and doming and therabands, we're just not putting the expectation beyond the person. Now, I would use that in the context of somebody who's not walking yet, because the torque production and load and force required is, you know, if they can't walk, then those things are really appropriate. Or if they need to just get that pain sensitization out, fine, that stuff's really appropriate. But if they're walking into your clinic, the force production from all of that stuff doesn't even get close to where walking is. So I'm moving on and past that. I'm trying to find activities that are either going to meet them at walking or try and push them past it.
Yep.
So double leg heel rises, and I was probably earlier in my career, I was like, oh, why are we doing double leg heel rises? It's like the only exercise physios ever give, or podiatrists ever give. And I was probably a bit too dismissive of it. But I think we don't appreciate the, you know, we can do more than just do a standard sit there and do a calf rise. You know, we can put them in different balance situations to try and engage intrinsic foot muscles. That's their task. That's their job. They're there for balance. We can put them under load, so we can do isometrics under load. We can push them into a forward position to try and get them to propel forwards. So all of those things are going to increase the expectation about the foot. Now, you can't just do all of that now, you know, straight away. If they're limping into circumcision, it's just not going to work. You've got to meet them where they're at. But I think if they're walking into your room, then we need to be going, all right, how do I get 1.5 times body weight through your foot? And, you know, if I'm going to measure that, are you producing good 60 to 80 newtons worth of force through your foot? Because if you're not, maybe I just need to get you up to that, and it's not going to take me that long to do it. So at 60 to 80 newtons of force per kilo is actually still not even 1.5 times body weight for those playing along at home. I can't give you a number off the top of my head because it's been a long day, but you can go away and Google the difference. I think it's 1 point something. But yeah, like we just need to be we need to be courageous and a bit creative and see that how do I get you to put more load through your foot and body to try and propel forwards. Walk, like that's all we're doing.
And what's commercially available, do you think, right now that can measure 60 to 80 Newton meters of force?
Well, that's all your force dexterous stuff. So you can't really, right? And I think objectively you don't get much, but you could put someone underneath a squat rack and go, okay, can you rise up underneath the squat rack? Great. Okay, I'm going to put a 20 kilo bar underneath you, or in a Smith machine if you're really lucky. Can you move against that? No? Okay, cool. Can you move against 40 kilos? So that's a way of measuring it, right? It's a different measure. It's kilos, not newtons. But if you can then get someone's body weight on their shoulders, well, they've met the need, right?
Yeah. And I think that's an important point, because I guess with the tech that's out these days, it's quite sexy on Instagram, and, you know, a lot of people can see it at the moment. And a lot of young kids are, I guess, pushing to use a lot of the tech, but a lot of it is, one, not validated, but two, if you're going to use it, you need to be able to use that data. So I think working with limited resources as you're growing as a practitioner is very important. Once you've got that knowledge, then you can kind of integrate that technology into your practice.
I think we, especially as a younger practitioner, we get really caught up on making sure that we've got access to, oh yeah, but all the tech's at this place.
Yeah.
I think you often don't even understand how to use the tech to your benefit anyway. Like I love tech. Okay. Like anyone who knows me is prepared to admit that, you know, I've got Stream Decks in front of me. Like I'm a nerd, right? But we, I think we can simplify, because at the end of the day, the patient's the important factor, not the tech. And you can find creative ways, and it's not being overly creative. It's just going, okay, well, what have I got in front of me? And what can I measure that's measurable? We don't need to always have all this fancy stuff. Like I would love to get, the foot pressure mapping stuff. That'd be cool. But can I still prescribe a foot orthosis and get the result that I want without using one? Absolutely, I can. So yeah, I think we can often get caught up going, particularly as younger pods, because you need to be able to use the tech to deliver the outcome for the patient.
Yes.
And the patient's coming into you saying, I want to be able to run 5Ks. Well, I could probably write you a load program to get you from 0 to 5Ks.
Yep.
I may not need the tech to help me write that program.
Yeah.
So it looks sexy, but you don't have to use it.
Yeah. So I guess from your lens, being an academic and a clinician, right? And so you have exposure to both worlds. If you're teaching a university course, do you feel like we should be removing technology from a broad sense and getting them to work on their clinical skills and their outcome measures and the process on how they become a coach, a clinician? And then as they develop, they can start to understand the quality of technology and why it needs to be used?
It's a really good question. So yes, yes, but I appreciate why the universities would be teaching it at the same time, because they're trying to have them ready for helping them see what is available out there.
Mm-hmm.
If we use foot orthoses as a good example, I love the idea of teaching people how to just cast. Like this is how you cast a foot. I think understanding and appreciating how to do the messy stuff means that you can then really appreciate what happens when you try and take a scan of a foot. And even just trying to create a polyprope device on your own underneath a mat with some melted plastic and totally stuffing it helps you go, okay, so now when I'm asking for a medial post, this is what I'm doing. I mean, I made a call once where I said, I think every new grad should do formies, because then what happens is you have to get into the lab and you have to grind it and add the pads and do all that stuff. Because then when 12, 18 months, 24 months later, you then try and prescribe a custom device, you feel far more confident doing it because you go, oh, you know what, last time I put 14 mils of D-filler on this bloke because it was ridiculous. So you know how far you're going to have to go. That is mad, by the way. But you know how far you have to go, right? So, because you might have done something completely different. So I think some of those really analog skills, they teach you faster.
I completely agree. I'm just thinking about me being a youthful pod and making the most outrageous orthotics ever. Yeah. And you almost have to go through that and just make absolute trash to be like, well, I'm never doing that again.
My first device, so that was an absolute disaster. So I gave it to this lady. She was wearing a pair of Merrells or something. No, couldn't have been Merrells. It was something else, because I went to pull the inside out of her shoe and I broke her shoe because it was all attached. And I was like, oh, this is getting bad. So I had to buy her a new pair of shoes. Did her a pair of custom devices, which were just, they were terrible. And I've still got the device at home just to remind myself as a humbling effort. Because I ended up I bought a grinder to work on them at home because I just wanted to get good. I wanted to get them good. I spent hours. It was terrible. And then I reckon they are probably 4 centimeters wide, maybe now. And they almost look like a rectangle. I'm not sure if I can even see where the arch might have been. And there was this pre-done met dome in it, which now looks more like a half-eaten triangle. Like, it's terrible. But she never came back, that poor lady. But I learned a lot from that one pair of devices, and I think that I'd be disappointed if other people didn't have to go through it, because you learn a lot.
Take a photo of these so we can use them as a bit of clickbait for your podcast episode of social media.
The shame.
Actually, just thinking of bad orthotics, one piece of technology I'm absolutely thrilled exists is a 3D scan, because I never quite got my head around plaster casting for an orthotic. So I'm very glad that 3D scan exists.
Look, it's amazing and it's awesome. But I think I do think being able to do a blastcast is good, because when technology fails, you've got it. But also I think it's just part of that process of going, you know what? Okay, so this is what a good cast looks like. This is what a good scan looks like. You know what? If I move the foot in this way, this is really tangibly how I change the shape of the foot. So look, I love the old plaster casts. They make a terrible mess, and they're, but there's something about it. It's like the skills you get out of general nail care. You let so many communication skills out of that, and so many listening skills out of that, and so many education skills out of that are so easily lost because you're chasing the elite runner.
Yeah, I think there's some really good messages there for our younger listeners, but also from our seasoned listeners as well, to kind of just take back where we all started from and how we kind of got to where we are now. I guess that takes us to our next segment, which is our future footprint, John, which is, where do you see the future of sports and exercise podiatry in Australia, mate?
Yeah, it's changed a lot in 10 years. Where do I see the future? Look, I reckon it's going to become really tech-based. I think it's going to be a lot of tech. Tech's costs are going to come down. I think there's going to be, I'm seeing Zebras treadmills advertised everywhere at the moment. I think there's going to be a lot more tech. I reckon that what I would really love to see is really love to see podiatry grow and be bigger, though. And I would love to see some really brave podiatrists go, I'm going to step out of Australia, I'm going to step out of the UK, I'm going to step out of, and this is probably more again to the younger guys, because you've got the opportunity. It's a bit hard for me with a family, but I could do it. But I would love to see us take some of those risks and make a bigger presence in the world. That's a huge statement again, but I think that would be, if podiatry is really going to have impact, that's part of how we do it. And I think if we can all support each other to help create that, then we have that real benefit. I think there's something about CEPA. I am a CEPA member for all those listening, but it really is a matter of finding your people. And for me, CEPA is that. There's some awesome people, and you can get a really good group of people around you, and they will all support you to make all these changes. But I think that, if we can expand podiatry beyond the obvious shores, then I think that would benefit sports exercise and podiatry more generally. But I do see how there'll be more tech. Tech will become bigger and become more of a talking point, even if it's not used as much.
So where do you see some of our biggest challenges and barriers for growth as a profession?
I think because we are so small and nichey, I think that's our challenge. Being able to, I think it's both a positive and a negative. As long as we don't eat ourselves, and we look after each other and really support each other, I think that is a really beneficial thing. I suppose in some ways you could turn around and you could say, you know what, if you have a number of podiatrists who are local, one might be amazing at orthoses, another might be amazing at rehab. Send them to the person who's amazing at orthoses to do that. Send them to the rehab person who's amazing at doing that. There's no reason why we couldn't do that sort of stuff. We probably don't do that often enough. I like to think I'd pick up the phone and ask friends interstate, or not, and sort of say, hey, look, I've seen this. What do you know? I think they're the things that really help us. So, yeah. A real pregnant pause to finish. Yeah.
Really lovely.
Okay.
Like, podiatry is a very small industry, so it's nice to be able to ring up someone in a different state, see what their opinion is, see what they think.
That'll be the thing that'll hinder us if we don't just embrace each other and don't try and help each other grow. I think that's the thing that will hinder us more than anything.
I definitely agree with that. I guess with the emerging use of artificial intelligence in practice, I'm an early adopter, And I, for one, get frustrated when I forget to click start transcribing. Or
I did it today. 2 hours later. I should have pushed to stop
or my
transcribe.
phone disconnects. So I think, do you feel like we're getting overly reliant on a lot of technology that's not flawless yet?
Look, that's hard because I love it. And yeah, I do use it. Actually, it's funny. Like I thought the other day, I was like, it's listening into my entire consult, right? What's to stop someone? And I had a patient, I was doing some triage for a surgeon, and a patient came in. This was before I was even using AI to listen to my consults. But I mean, if I'm using that, where's that? Like, I know the data's safe, but who's using that data and what for? Who's to say that someone can't just type into ChatGPT, I roll my ankle, what do I do? And I had a guy who did that. He comes in, he goes, so I typed into ChatGPT, what are the best shoes for a rolled ankle? And you know what? It wasn't far off. You know, it sort of said some really low profile shoes. I was like, it's not far away. Like, it's done a reasonable job. I think it said something about some ankle strapping or bracing, which was way off at the time. Like, you still want to use the strapping and the bracing, but the way it described it was way off. So I think, but it's early days. So in 10 years' time, that stuff's going to be phenomenal. But what it doesn't have connection.
Yeah.
And if you look at the best practitioners, they've really genuinely got a relationship and connection with their patient.
Yeah.
And AI doesn't have that.
Yeah.
So that's the thing I think that we've got. And I think that's the thing we should lean into.
I think the one thing I should mention about AI, if people are fearful about their data, always think about what happens if a multinational company that's not within our interests buys out, say, a Nucleus or a Clinico. Because that's
correct.
That's
all our data's gone there as well. Correct.
So I think we're at the stage where pretty much everyone is on paperless notes, and our data is owned by someone, and it will forever be owned by someone. So
yeah, 100%. I think the challenge with the language models is that, you know, like as a researcher, you put your research out into the public domain. ChatGPT reads my research, spits out a quick summary. It puts all that together. It can probably put together a decent clinical answer for somebody, because it combines everybody in the world's research, you know. But it's not the person, and people want to be treated by a person.
yeah,
I love it. I love using my note taker for AI notes. It's unbelievable how many hours a day that saves me, and God knows we could all do that extra a couple of hours.
yeah. So I guess our final strides, John. A question that I get asked
Loving these puns. They are absolutely. They are. You're just rolling them off, and it's like nothing ever happened. And you got to try not to laugh because they're amazing. Anyway, yes. Sorry, your strides.
Well, one of the questions I get asked a lot at conferences is, how do I get started in sports and exercise podiatry? I guess moving the floor to you, John. How does someone younger who's just freshly graduated or a couple years out, how do they get into it?
I would reach out. Like I'm surprised by how accessible everybody is. And I would just reach out. And it may be that you get dismissed on the first time, and that's probably because the person's seeing 20 patients in the day, plus doing a whole range of other things. But if I was a young podiatrist looking, I would reach out and find someone who you respect and do your research. I mean, there's a lot of people out there. Like, find someone who speaks to you. Find someone who seems to be what you're looking for as well. But I would be not afraid to reach out. The other challenge, I think, that for younger pods, I don't know if it's a challenge or not, but I know most of the senior pods that I've spent time with, they gave up a lot of their time for nothing. Yeah. And if you reach out to these people, the expectation is they're going to give up more of their time for nothing. And it's easy for me to sit here, however many years later and working, to turn around and say, you're going to have to find a way to give something back. But if you want something, you have to give something. So, you know, for every Newton's third law, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And it's kind of true. So I think if you're prepared to take, you need to be more prepared to give, because that will absolutely come back to you more than tenfold. But similarly, don't be afraid to just reach out to somebody and say, hey, look, I don't know, can I come watch? Can I come and have a coffee with you? Can I, or reach out to the local kids football team and say, can I just come and strap your ankles? Like, it's, if you've just cutting toenails in a clinic somewhere and you're brand new out, or you're in a aged care home, that's what I did when I first graduated. Get them up and walking. Like, you are still doing sport and exercise podiatry. It's just that they're not an AFL player, but they're the 1%. So if you're interested genuinely in musculoskeletal medicine, which is really what it is, then apply it everywhere and anywhere, and you will slowly start to just develop and pick it up.
John, thank you for coming on and giving up your time and sharing your knowledge, I guess, for our listeners and our younger podiatrists out there. I think what you're doing is really good for the profession, and it's going to bring up a lot of good content for years to come.
I also love that you're doing it in plantar heel pain as your research. I think that's probably the most common thing we see in our clinic. Incredibly useful.
That was accident, but I appreciate that. Look, research there's a lot of holes, right? There's a lot of holes for foot and ankle. So there's a lot of opportunity if you've got questions to, reach out to researchers or reach out to people and say, hey, how do we, I did this at SMA. I was like, just get involved. Like, you absolutely can. So if you have questions that just aren't answered in the literature, take it on yourself, try, just get involved and do one paper. And then you probably understand that translation of evidence to practice a whole lot differently.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, John. Pat, and thank you for coming on and giving up your Tuesday night as well. Everyone have a lovely night. See ya.